Hello and welcome to This Week in Sports. I am your regional manager this week, Nick, with my co-host and your direct supervisor, Zach.
How you doing?
It's a very business-forward week this week in the sports world. Hence, we're doing business this week. That's the theme.
Yeah, some good business, some bad business. We'll talk all about it.
Absolutely. A little bit of sports action on the docket still. They are still playing some games out there in the MLB, and we had our PLL homestand for the Denver Outlaws. And I know the WNBA was busy again also this week. But we do also have some fat to chew on in the football and baseball worlds as well. So, but I think first things first. Do you have your homework ready to turn in?
I have my homework ready to turn in.
Fantastic. Zach, remind everyone what your homework was.
My homework was the reverse of what we did last week. For you, I got $21 million, and I had to put together an NBA team to put out there on the court.
Yes. You did have the chance to multiply that 21 million, but you did roll a 1 on your die.
I did. I did not get any multipliers on it, unfortunately.
I do want that on the record.
I did. I gave myself the chance and shot myself in the foot.
Yep.
I do want to put out there, just in comparison, before we compare homeworks here, your homework much better than mine. For $21 million in the NHL, you could put together a pretty solid starting lineup. Like, this should probably be your first line out there on ice.
Yeah, theoretically.
Theoretically. $21 million in the basketball world does not go very far.
No, it does not. I went ahead and did a little lookup just so I mean, a good teacher has to know how to grade the homework. The very first player you'd be able to afford was our very own Cam Johnson, now at $20.5 million for the upcoming season. He is the 83rd highest paid player in the league.
Yeah, it was a tough assignment, but I did do so. I will say these lineups, I have two different lineups here. Okay. One would be, I think, a very good coming off the bench lineup, like $20 million, I think, off a bench. I think that's fairly reasonable for a lot of different teams based on how big the salary cap is now in the NBA. And then I have another lineup here that is just, I went for something. I said, well, I'm going to try and throw together just a starting lineup to throw out there on an NBA court.
If there are starters who can fit in the parameters?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Let's hear these lineups.
So my not so crazy lineup here. I have Cole Anthony at the point guard. I have Gary Trent Jr. at my shooting guard. Cam Whitmore is going to be one of my wings. I have Matthias Bulizes also going to be one of my wings. And I'm going to go Jackson Hayes for my center. And then I also did bring in a 6-man for you just for some extra credit with Mason Plumlee on that line.
Hey, we know Mason Plumlee.
We know Mason Plumlee in this line. Cole Anthony and Gary Trent, both fairly good two-way players for the most part. We've been kind of eyeing them both here in the Denver area for a little bit now. I think they're both actually in Milwaukee. I know Cole Anthony is over there. Gary Trent was there for some time. He might be in Toronto last I saw of him. Cam Whitmore, he is the guy that you may take out for Mason Plumlee and kind of flip him back and forth. Dude is a firecracker. But he does not know what a bad shot is, and he could be very, very good for the team or very detrimental. No kind of in between there. No, just all right. It's going to be one of the two, and depending on the day, he may or may not be with that group.
Sure.
Matthias was a rookie last year for the Bulls. He was actually fairly decent. He scored fairly high in the Rookie of the Year. He did towards the end of the season there when the Bulls started to get running before they pulled off the switch there right before playoffs. He looked fairly decent. Jackson Hayes, as we know, over there in the Lakerland, he's just effective. He's a rim stopper, very much like Mason Plumlee. If I need to go defense heavy, Cam Whitmore, we know, firecracker, great on offense, not going to play very much defense. He's super athletic, so I can throw a defensive lineup out there. That is my not so crazy lineup.
Okay, fantastic.
Pure bench players, all good role players, I think is possible.
We've heard most of those names at least once or twice in broadcast before.
Now, my starting lineup here.
Okay.
I said, how can I possibly get the best starting lineup out there with such little money to my name.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, what I'm going to do is the first player I'm going to grab is I'm going to grab Victor Wembanyama to be the centerpiece of my offense.
Fantastic.
Right there is $15 million off my books.
Excellent strategy, though. You've got a strong piece to build around.
It's 7'4", 7'4" center, can dribble, can shoot, can defend. Everything I need to.
Is going to make defenses reinvent themselves over the next decade.
That's exactly what we want. And I said, okay, well, I need some pieces around him now.
We've got to fill 4 more spots with $7 million.
Yep, seven, and I think
change.
like $3 million, something like that.
Okay.
But I said, okay, who am I going to place around him? He's going to need a point guard. I don't want him bringing the ball down every time. So I said, I'm going to go out and get Chris Paul. He's a nice contract this year. He's only 2.5.
Okay.
Next to Chris Paul, we're going to have Spencer Dinwiddie, also another kind of combo guard. We should know him. He was a CU buff.
I was going to say Colorado kid.
Yep, I've liked him a lot. I think he's been underutilized in the league, and when he's had time to shine, especially out there in Brooklyn where things go to die apparently as well, he was cooking out there, and I think that's a possibility he can have. The premises is feed the ball to Wemby and you guys go out and stay out of the way for the most part.
Sure.
Alongside Wemby is, for his wings, he's going to get Jalen Wells, who's a rookie last year, finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year. He is a Memphis Grizzly. Young dude, shot fairly decently overall in the season, 6'7". So I said, okay, he can be probably a small forward.
Okay.
A little undersized, I would say, for a small forward. He's technically a shooting guard, but he's going to go out there and play wing for me. And then with those 3 guys, I had $1.5 million left.
Right.
Not very many players
really
out there.
Squeezing under the line here.
Really squeezing under the line here. So in fact, I said, who could I possibly go grab for this lineup that is not just completely god awful and will be at least productive with these players? And I said, there is no one I can afford that can possibly do this, but I guess I'm going to go and grab Ben Simmons, and he is going to be my 5 or my 4 in this lineup.
Okay.
And he doesn't need to shoot the ball. He just needs to defend, grab a rebound, and he can play make. If you cannot hit Victor Wembanyama, we have bigger issues.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I need from him. You can go make layups, never shoot the ball, dribble it around, do whatever you need, defense. That's all I need from you, Ben Simmons. And that is my kind of insane starting lineup.
Now that's very interesting. Ben Simmons is making a lot less money than I realized.
Yeah, he is still a free agent, and I just went off his projected. He's projected, if he does go anywhere, basically to be a vet min.
Yeah, it looks like his last year's contract was $755,000.
Yeah, he's, I think, expected to make like 1.5 this year is what they had him at, roughly estimated wise. So I was like, that's good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very impressive, because that was for sure a tighter challenge than the one that you presented to me.
It was, and actually, I don't think I'm too upset with my starting lineup. Really, it just looks like the San Antonio Spurs, how they were last year.
I was going to say there's some familiar pieces clicking together in that.
Yeah, CP and Wemby were together for the beginning of a couple years ago, and last year, Dinwiddie, he could fit in there. I mean, he's very similar to how De'Aaron Fox is, older for sure, but I think that those pieces around him, I think that is, we could win some games. Not going to be winning a lot of games, but we could win some for sure.
Yeah, I believe in that. I think the Wemby move was a smart choice there, because $15 million, that's still a great deal in the basketball landscape, even though that's 1.25 Nathan McKinnon's. Yeah,
so I tried to go for the strategy you went with, and I said, let's just go grab all these
some rookies,
and they're cheap. If you look, I think Cooper Flagg is projected to make $17 million this year, which is more than I was willing to spend for a player who is an unproven commodity as of yet. And some of the rookies, they just had to be good. Like I tried to fit Stephon Castle, who's also a Spur, was rookie of the year last year, but he's making $5 or $6 million. So him and Wemby alone would be my team. I got to play 2-on-5 for the whole duration of the game. That doesn't seem super great. Wells was on the lower side. I think he was only like a $3 million rookie, luckily.
Yeah, that is an interesting scale difference, and kind of reminds me of the pre kind of rookie contracts contraction that the NFL had to do back when like Sam Bradford ended up making like 20 something million on his rookie deal, and then
him and
everyone
Jamarcus
else
Russell
realized we're like, we're paying these guys maybe a little too soon on this.
Yeah, the NFL one was I will say the NFL contracts are slightly different. They were getting a lot of like $200 million contracts, but also there's like the guarantees and all that stuff. So you're not really getting all that $200 million for the most part.
Just comparatively to hockey and baseball, where rookies you can kind of guarantee that you're going to get some value deals out of those contracts.
Yes, Dylan Harper this year was the second overall pick in the NBA draft, and I think he's projected to make $14.5 million just on the yearly. That's a 4-year contract.
Incredible. Well, yeah, there's a reason everyone wants to make it to the NBA. Well, that's a very good job on the homework there. Let's just roll that into what our basketball news is for the week here.
Yeah, basketball news for the week. Nothing out of the NBA currently. The big news, if you're seeing anything on social media, is Dame's out there in Portland once again. He did resign as a Blazer, if you did not know. So he's out there just doing all the good things in Portland. That's sort of what's been on all the NBA media and whatnot and things like that. All the cool things he's doing out there. WNBA wise, it's been a little bit of a crazy week. For the most part, we still have games going on currently today. There's like a 5 or 6, in fact, going on today. Three are going on right now and 2 more later this evening. But sort of, there's just a wrap up of the week. The Liberty did end up losing did go on a 3-game slide this week, sort of as expected, without the captain, the lead, Stewie there. They lost to Dallas 82-92, Minnesota 93-100, and Connecticut 62-78.
I'll say that Connecticut one's a little bit more surprising. Even without Stewie in the lineup, I would have thought they'd have a pretty easy time with that one.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened. Connecticut kind of figured some things out this week, and they got a couple wins, like a couple tough wins to their name. We'll hear their name again here as we sort of go down the wrap up. They are so far out of it right now. I'm not going to say it's not impossible, but highly unlikely that they make a playoff run. They are right now the team that's going to ruin it for the other teams is sort of the game that they're playing. It should be noted that the Liberty, even with these losses, 17-8 still, and they're still sitting top 2 or 3 in the league, so they're sitting kind of just fine. We said last week, Stewie's, and they're no rush to get Stewie back, just to make sure she is fully healthy. As we've seen from a couple of these games, 82-92, 93-100, they're doing kind of okay without her for the most part. Need to clean up some stuff on the defensive end or score a couple more buckets on the offensive end, and I think they'll be okay. And now is a good time to get some of those role players going, especially with the star being out of the lineup. Washington this week. Washington, as we know, Sonia Citron's town. They go 1-2 on the week. They're still in a little bit of a funk. Like we talked about, those last 2 spots are going to be very highly contested throughout the season, especially this back half here. Washington lost this week. Phoenix Mercury 88-72 and Golden State 67-68. So a tough one there. They did end up beating the Sky, who are kind of back to their old ways. We had one good week of just ups and ups and ups, and now it's not so many ups anymore. It's a struggle out there to get a win in the Windy City, it feels like. Should be noted here, Washington, with this, they were sitting in the 7th spot last week when we last had our conversation. They ended up dropping all the way down to the 9th, basically swapping with the Valkyrie, who bump all the way up to the 7th spot. How do they do that? The Valks kind of turned the ship around this week. As we know, they lost Kayla Thornton, who was their leading scorer. I mean, it is true she was the best player on the team, at least from a points perspective, but they are such an evenly balanced team. They just had to reshuffle some things and brought in a couple new phases to help out. So this week, the Valks go 3-1 with a game later tonight against Vegas, but this week they beat Atlanta, the Dream, who are in that sort of that top tier, 77-75. Washington 68-67, which we talked about just a moment ago. Chicago 73-66, and then they did end up losing to Connecticut 64-95.
Yeah, Connecticut playing spoiler all week long.
They are. That's just kind of that's what you have to do now. I think there is some rumblings around that Connecticut is potentially going to get bought up by the Boston Celtics owner and get moved and relocated to Boston, because
Yeah, I mean, it's not been announced officially, but insider reporting has multiple sources saying that deal is all but confirmed.
Yeah, please help this team. However, like I said just a few minutes ago, big game tonight against the Aces. Aces are sitting at 14-14, sitting at 8th, basically on the bottom of bubble of that playoff run, and the Valks are 14-13. So whoever comes away with this win, get a little comfort space between you and that 8th spot.
Which is, absolutely important coming into this back half of the season here. I'm still pretty surprised that the Aces have still yet to kind of gain traction, although the climb up to 500 is still a big improvement for them.
Yeah, they've been kind of up and down. Like I said, their lineup does not look at all like how it's supposed to. They've been dealing with injuries pretty much all season long. If they can make the playoffs and healthy, I think they could be a force to be reckoned with. They are one of the few who have done it multiple times back to back. There is the issue there, though, of the Liberty and Lynx have shown that they are by far the best teams in the league. Perhaps Seattle, we know, can play spoiler, and Atlanta's nothing to sneeze at. We haven't talked about them a whole lot, but they are a very solid team as well. So sort of those top 4 teams you have to get past in order to get to the championship. And I don't know if Vegas has any of that firepower yet. Earlier this week, while we're still talking about Vegas did end up playing the Sparks. This game was significant because it was Cameron Brink's first game back. We talked a little bit about the Sparks last week. They have sort of a good thing going on right now, and they've really been on the up and up. This week they did go 1-1. They did lose the game against Vegas, 89-74. Brink did return. She did play not a whole lot, but kind of just to work her back in. The three-headed monster over there, Kelsey Plum, Hamby, and Rakia Jackson are all still very, very much huge part of what the team is doing and does. Even it's been the key to success, I would say, for the last couple of. At any point in time, any of those players have a 20-plus game to their name. Usually it's 2 or more, if not all 3, which is becoming a harder thing to stop. And they're sort of getting this ball rolling at the right time here. I think they have a good potential to make the playoffs. I don't know, like I said, like we talked about some weeks ago, I don't know who's going to be in that 7th and 8th spot, but I think they're going to be hard teams to come by because those are the teams that are sort of going to be rolling by the end there, and they're going to be fighting for something for sure.
Yeah, it's a very muddy situation at the bottom of the standings there after it's like 14 wins for number 7 and number 8 there. And then
14 wins. Sparks have 11 right now to their name. Valkyrie have 14. They're the 8th spot. Washington has 13.
So it's still anybody's spot to wrestle for that bottom half of the seating there.
Yeah, like I said, it'll be a fun sort of tail end to watch. I think the top 4 spots are pretty much a lock. I would expect something has to go terribly wrong in the world for the Liberty, the Dream, and the Lynx not to be in there. In the Mercury, I would also say those teams are pretty much a lock. Everyone else is...
The Lynx are probably, pretty close to pulling away and clinching a spot here pretty soon. Liberty are now 6 games behind them with this little slide of theirs, but still very safely in second.
Yeah.
We know who's going to be in there for sure at the top half, and it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, I think, the Sparks have a lot of momentum building now. Connecticut is probably mathematically not gonna.
It would take a whole lot to get in there, though. Everyone would have to go on a losing streak, which is not entirely possible in the WNBA, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but I think they could be a team that's just spoiler all season long.
I think it's looking like those matchups are not going to be gimmies anymore if you see Connecticut on the schedule.
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. Any other WNBA news we need to talk about?
Nope, that is sort of the wrap up of the week. Of course, there's a lot more teams and games that are going on there, but these are the ones I think that everyone sort of has their eye on. There'll be a couple, once we get to potentially a new segment here, we'll talk a little bit more about the happenings inside the WNBA.
Fantastic. Yeah, I was going to say, we will maybe circle back and, like we said, previewing a new segment later in the show to see who our player of the week is going to be. A fun little thing I thought of that we can kind of highlight who is really standing out here in the sports landscape in our week-to-week coverage. But as we move away from the basketball, let's go ahead and I'll just go ahead and knock hockey out of the way real quick. Again, not much news out of the actual league. this week. Very quiet. The biggest news out on the socials this week was the Team Canada orientation camp, where it was kind of a who's who of who got the invites and who didn't. Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini both got their invites this year, so the new kids on the block got to go practice with Crosby and McKinnon, but other than that, that was kind of the only rumblings out in the hockey world. There is a summer hockey event going on that is backed by the NHL. That Zach, you and I have both, I think, caught some glimpses of so far this summer. A 3-on-3 little mini tournament that they are calling 3 Ice, and it's sort of a in a similar vein that we've seen to the other sports, kind of an attempt at slimming things down, making a faster, higher paced version of an already pretty fast and high paced game.
Yeah, I accidentally came upon this sitting in a sports bar with our grandparents, just sort of looking what's on the TV. We, of course, had all the fan favorites. You had the Savannah Bananas up on one, and what do I see but summer hockey on the other one? And I said, what is this thing?
It's a strange little amalgamation of what they've got here is similar to how PWHL ran their first season. It's just, it's 8 teams with city names. So you have 3 Ice Boston, 3 Ice Dallas, 3 Ice Philadelphia. There's 2 different teams out of New York. They have a New York, New Jersey combo team and a Buffalo team. But yeah, it is I think it's a 4-week or 5-week event where they kind of get these teams together, run little tournaments. Everyone plays 2 games, and then top 2 teams play for a championship of the weekend and are accruing points. It is sort of there's no current NHL players involved. There's a lot of AHL level guys and some like older guys. The big the big selling point for it for the fans though is they have gone ahead and got a lot of legends of the game in the past to get involved. So you've got Ray Bork coaching, you've got Team USA 1980s assistant coach Craig Patrick as the commissioner of the league and namesake of the championship trophy, the Patty. So that's kind of what they're banking on, but overall it's interesting because it seems to be still a very sort of bootstrapped affair of a production, considering that we've seen a lot of different young sports leagues out and about, and this one seems to I'm not 100% sure how they got the NHL association when they're having a hard time keeping their YouTube page updated.
Yeah, it's new. It looked I think ragtag is the correct term for it. Doesn't look quite polished yet, but as we've seen with some of these other like small form sports that we've talked about, we've gone through so many of them now, and it's almost like every sport except for football has a small version quite yet. I guess arena counts there.
Arena, I would say we could talk about flag football in that semblance as well.
Yeah, but this one definitely feels fresh, brand new, just kind of figuring it out.
Absolutely. There was a little bit of action, although it's a tough thing to keep track of because, like I said, they're not super on top of their digital footprint, as it were. So they do not yet have a easily accessed page to just see what the results of the past weekend were. But we are coming up, I believe, on their last weekend of tournament play. So maybe next week I'll have a report on who made it into the finals there. The little bit I did catch earlier this week, though, I believe the goaltender for 3 Eyes Dallas is son of the former New Jersey Devils great. It is Jeremy Brodeur. Yeah. And I was like, oh, how fun. His son is trying to make it into the league. And I think I'm not sure if he's going to make it. He is already now 29 years old.
But it feels like I'm not saying there isn't any 30-year-old rookies out there. Just probably not in the NHL, perhaps.
It's a little rarer. Normally although I will say if it's going to be at any position, it will be at goalie where you're most likely to see that happen. So that's probably the most recognizable name as far as the players go in the league so far. They do have a fun little gimmick. If you do catch a game on, the leading scorer in the league for the week gets to wear a golden helmet, and they relinquish the helmet if they lose like the lead in the scoring race. And there is a cash prize for whoever is wearing the helmet at the end of the season.
That's it feels like you're putting a target on that man's
A little bit, right?
head.
Yeah, just a little sparkly. Although I will say that is the benefit of it being a 3-on-3 league. No one's super concerned about playing defense, so not a whole lot of worries about the headhunting as much.
I'm going to say that the snippets I did catch while sitting in the sports bar did not seem like defense is their primary focus at all.
No, very offensive focused league, and entertaining at least. A lot of high adrenaline plays for hockey fans, I would say. Maybe not the cleanest sporting action you'll see, but there is definitely an entertainment value there.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's talk about a sport that is ramping up faster than anyone would believe. They've got pads on. They even played an official preseason game. Football's creeping back up on us already.
It very much is. We will start to get preseason here very, 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 very soon. In fact, if there's not been, because the Hall of Fame game or Hall of Fame was, I think,
this
last
weekend.
night or this weekend. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a preseason game tonight, actually.
It is a potential. I think most teams still have till next weekend before they're suiting up. But the Detroit Lions and LA Chargers got the first official action underway for the 25-26 season.
Yep, that was our Hall of Fame game. Chargers did win that one 34-7. It does look like preseason football. We only get 3 of them now. No one cares. Really, it's for who is going to be the role players on your team, who is going to fit into if I ever get a $20 million cap for the NFL, whose names do I need to know?
Very much the bubble players trying to make a roster here.
Yeah, depending on who your coach is and what the vibes are, should see very little of the starters for the most part, especially this first week. Maybe you'll see a little bit of them the second week and probably not again on the third week, ideally.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot else to cover out of that. The one thing I did see out of that first preseason game, the Lions had a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, there's brand new people. Everyone's doing fresh here.
Yep.
And Harbaugh, we know, can coach the college players, which is probably what he had just running around out there.
Yeah, fairly right up his alley there.
Yeah. Other news in the NFL, a lot of things have been happening, good and bad. We'll start with the bad. The NFC East seems to be on fire for some reason. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, as many know, he's decided that he no longer wants to be in Washington. He needs to get paid. Washington's not paying him. They refuse to pay him. And he says, please trade me. He did report to camp after holding out all offseason finally, because he kept getting fined and whatnot, because that is a thing that does happen. Yep. He said, this is terrible. I want to go somewhere else. And Washington said nothing.
We don't have to.
Yeah, Washington hasn't said anything about what they're going to do or what their plan is, and nobody really knows. The bigger fire is, of course, in Jerry's world. Jerry tends to, for some reason, it feels like we're here every offseason now. There is a tire fire out there in Dallas. This year's is shaped around Micah Parsons, who is a huge and probably the biggest star on the Dallas Cowboys currently. Some may say CeeDee Lamb or Dak Prescott or whoever, but I don't think there's anyone bigger than Micah Parsons himself personally. Micah has said, these guys will not negotiate with my extension. I also no longer want to be here. I tried being a Cowboy. There's no more love. I need to go somewhere else. Please trade me. And Jerry said, don't worry about it. These are how these things go.
Yeah, not a great sign of organizational stability when a guy who has proclaimed publicly on several occasions that he wants to remain with your team is so soured by the off-season negotiation process that he then has to come out and say, please get me out of here.
He's not soured by the off-season negotiation process. He's soured that there is no off-season negotiation process. He did put out a long notes tweet where he tweeted pictures of, and he has said that they have tried multiple times to sort of get a contract extension for him starting last season. They said, hold on, we'll let the markets we'll wait till the offseason. We kind of work some things out.
Mm-hmm.
The offseason came around and said, hold on, wait, let's see all these players get signed and the market will set itself and you'll get more money. And then they sent a message and they've not gotten a text, an email, a FaceTime, a letter, nothing. It's been radio silence up until our good old friend Jerry Jones over there said, don't worry about it.
This is proper business negotiation.
Yep, this is how
by the books.
This is how this always goes.
Ay.
I can't imagine him wanting to be there anymore. Micah Parsons, from all the things that I've seen about him, just even as a person, I can't imagine getting the contract. It was like gonna leave a good taste in your mouth, even if they do give you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Just feels like a lot of heartache for nothing, especially if Jerry, you're gonna do it anyway. Just give the man, please.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna end up, caving and trying to keep the talent that you have. And now you're gonna pay more for it probably because it's dragged on for so long, burnt all the goodwill that this man has towards your organization. It makes very little logical sense, but hey, being a billionaire poisons your brain.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in that man's head. Last year was CeeDee Lamb, who he made him the largest, highest paid receiver up until some other people signed contracts earlier this year.
But at the time,
I don't know why we keep doing this. All the Dallas fans, I would assume, are scared and horrified once again. But until Jerry gives up control of being the general manager of this team, which he will not, because he is the owner of the team and he will not fire himself. He's notably said many, many times and even threatened to fire the radio show hosts, if we recall from last year.
Yep.
But yeah, good news out there in Dallas. Good. The scary thing I will say here in the Denver area about potential landing spots is Vegas and Los Angeles Chargers, both being kind of high on that list because they have the cap. Don't know if they have the things that Dallas may want, but who knows?
That is an unfortunate update that we certainly don't want him to end up with a division rival if we can't have him.
Yeah, I would have really liked him. Don't know what we would have to give up for him. I kind of know, but I'm just gonna let that do what it does. Odds if I were a betting man, I think Jerry's gonna come groveling on his knees back to Micah Parsons and try to make everything okay because unfortunately, I think Jerry does know this is a business and he is a huge part of your business, unless he has gone so crazy that he thinks no person on the Dallas Cowboys is bigger than the Cowboys as a whole, which is kind of true, but you also need the superstars in the NFL. It's a whole thing. Speaking of good news, though, in the Denver area, our friend Zach Allen here, defensive end, number one pass rusher, or at least pressures on the quarterback last year, gets rewarded 4 years, $100 million contract to his name as of yesterday, 69.5 of that guaranteed. So he is locked up here to be in the Denver area for the next 4 years. He is 27 currently, so that puts him here till he's about 32. So good, all good for the Broncos. If he continues to improve and maybe get some sacks off the pressures he did last year, I think that's a huge good bonus for us.
Yeah, I've been very happy with having Zach Allen follow Vance Joseph over from Arizona when we got him back over here into Denver, and I think that's a solid contract considering the way some of these contracts shake out in the offseason. That's going to be a pretty good value for 4 years.
I think so too. The next question is, Nick Bonito is due a payday here soon. He has one more year to his name, I think, and then he has to be extended. I think we want him here. The question I would ask you is, would you rather have Nick Bonito on your roster or potentially, I don't know, Micah Parsons on your roster?
Ooh, interesting. The trend from the new regime under the Sean Payton mold here has kind of been, if you don't fit what we're trying to do here, you're probably not sticking around. So I would say this is probably a pretty pivotal kind of prove it year for Nick. I imagine if they do move on from him, it would be for someone younger rather than a free agent.
Yeah, Micah is a year older than Bonito is currently. 27 versus 26. Micah, we know, is going to be expensive. Benito, we know, is also going to be expensive.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who is going to be expensive when. I would expect if we give up, if we wanted to go get Micah right now, he needs 24 million to his name this year, and then who knows what we're going to have to pay him the next n number of years. But Benito's only making 5, and we have 12 to our name, so we'd have to get rid of someone else as well.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't make a lot of sense on paper right now, and as much breathing room as we got this year out of the Russell Wilson contract, we're getting even more next year. So I think the spaces might be. I mean, cap's going to raise all that, but there's going to be a lot of other young guys who need paydays too. So if I were a betting man, I'd imagine Benito does not get an extension, and we plan on getting younger at that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume. I think he is top 2 pass rusher in the league now, according to all the stats last year. I think he is going to get an extension here. I don't know. I don't think we have the heart to give him up, and he's a dude that fits everything that we do now. He has kind of put his name front and center along with Pat Surtain on that defense. Very similar to our 2015 defense. You have DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller on the edges, and you have Chris Harris and Aqib Talib in the back. Right now we have Zach Allen and Nick Benito, and then we have Riley Moss and Pat Surtain, both excellent things to have. Middle, we don't really want to talk about all that right now, but
kind of filling in, but
yeah, having those spots filled is great. Continuing on into our NFL news, how about that NFLPA? The news keeps getting wilder and wilder as the reporting keeps going on. The initial reporting of all this has been coming from Pablo Torre, him, and Mike Florio is with him on this one. And I don't know how they got news of this, but they've been breaking all the NFLPA stuff that's been going on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the NFLPA board of director has decided to step down. There's been some not so savory things to his name. Lloyd Howell is the guy's name. He was the director of the NFLPA. This is not the first time he's been caught in a scandal either, oddly enough. Surprise, surprise. He was also working for Booz Allen when there was a settlement for the government. $371.45, basically $0.5 million. He was a CFO for that when Booz Allen was misusing government money.
Oh, fun.
So kind of a little bit of a track record in both spots, actually, NFLPA and in Booz Allen. He was expensing trips to the strip club as a business expense.
Interesting.
So that is something he's been known to do. The NFL did not check in on him for what reason and why. If you want to go learn a lot more about this, Pablo Torre has 3 different parts now, with a potential, probably a 4th part coming out too.
Oh boy.
All the mess in this story. The brief summary of this is the NFLPA kind of sketchily went out and tried to get a new board of directors when the old one stepped down. The 2 candidates that they kind of finagled their way in, for the most part, no one really knows what their selection process was like, or is very much a black box. And eventually they got these 2 dudes together, one who we don't really care about, and then Lloyd Howell here. And the dude who's been kind of masterminding this all, his name is going to be J.C. Trotter, who is a former player and been in the Washington area, around sort of where all the NFLPA stuff happens, been making his way up in the organization, actually being an NFLPA president himself, formerly. And he kind of put together this grand scheme. He kind of front ran for Lloyd Powell, and Lloyd Powell did the gracious and nice thing of creating a brand new position for him called chief strategist, which has never been a thing before in the PA. The other thing to note here is Lloyd, of course, he apparently was a dude who just collected board seats, the NFLPA being one. He's on 2 other boards, and the other thing is he also mainly resides in Florida, so he is never in the PA office ever.
Okay, fantastic. I guess you got to do something with your retirement years.
Potentially also explains why all the expenses are probably happening at a strip club
in Florida. Yeah,
because I can't imagine there's a ton of those out in New York, the DC area, but Florida, Miami, sure.
It checks out. Yeah.
Checks out for sure. But the whole thing behind this is JC Trotter has been made out like he is the victim of all this, and he basically claimed that he wished he was the monster everyone thought he was, and he did not. All the things that have come out about this are a bunch of mistruths, is what he said, and no one truly knows the story. But the dudes who Pablo Torre and Mike Florio all have kind of reached out to in the PA office, basically said, "Hey, Lloyd Howell's never here," and they're like, "Well, who's running the
who's
PA?
Actually making decisions?"
And they're like, "Oh,
keeping this thing
Trotters are doing everything." Then, and they're like, Okay, sure.
Well.
But the Trotter did go on Dan Patrick's, and this all came out because there was basically a collusion thing with the owners and the players in the NFLPA, and there's like a whole 61 page document about it. Both the owners colluding on how to not pay players, and players also colluding on how I got fake injuries, such as and sometimes the owners also faking injuries for players, like we've kind of heard here in Russell Wilson, the old Russell Wilson era, the darker days here.
Yep.
And everyone is like, this is all very bad. And our man here, JC Trotter, has said, I've never seen those files. These are all new to me, as if they've been leaked. I've only heard of them now that they've been leaked, which is kind of crazy. One, because as I just said, he's running the office, but also how all this shook out is he is the chief strategist, and this all came out of like a big strategy meeting that was leaked out, which means how are you?
He's definitely doing his job, but he's never seen those documents, but the documents were definitely from his office.
And they would be the primary thing of his job, like there would be the primary job of his job.
Yeah. Classic defense from entitled rich guy. I would love to find myself in the position to be able to screw up my job this badly.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on over there. Apparently he had this whole master plan, and the way this had gone and the way this all sort of broke is one, now the FBI is starting to look at this, because anytime you misuse funds, especially from even for the rich people, this would be considered the union. It's the largest union ever in the NFLPA. And eventually the MLBPA gets involved here as well, because those two have a company together. But they're mostly, I think, looking at the NFL side here right now, because the way this happened is the NFL and MLBPA came together and said, hey, in case things go bad, we want to make sure we're okay. The NFL has what they call war chest of $1.4 billion to take care of all the players, just in case anything truly does go wrong and there's a long lockout or whatever. The NFL or the MLBPA, I assume, has something similar. They said, let's come together and make a company and make this not only have this war chest, but also these things together. And we're going to have all the player likenesses in this sort of company and organization called One Player.
Interesting. Oh, yeah, I think I have heard of that organization. Yeah, it is a sort of players union, coalition, collective.
Yeah. 1TP is the abbreviation for this. And the MLB, apparently there's an MLB whistleblower who was like, hey, there's something sketchy going on here with 1TP here. Maybe you should check this out. And the MLB PA, I think he even stepped down. The director was like, don't look over here. There's nothing wrong going over here. And someone started to check it out. And the union board is, the way it happened is, now that you can include college players into this, the evaluation, which they got initially, was basically this company is worth $2 billion for everything involved here. Mm-hmm. But with college player likenesses all happening, they're like, well, now player likenesses are up to $10 billion, which is what that company would sort of initially be worked. And all the board members are like, we've been here helping and we're not getting anything from this. There's no cut from us, because it's a coalition and both PAs have to vote on who gets what pieces of how much money is for serving on the board and whatnot, and all that sort of shenanigans. Pablo Torre and Mike Florio kind of go into that a little bit more, and I assume we're going to hear a lot more about this as this comes out. But the board members actually started to get paid off. And who are these board members? Lloyd Howell, the MLB PA, JC Trotter, and a few other people started to take money out of the pockets of players who did not have a vote on this, basically stealing from the players and stealing from the organization as a whole, which is why the FBI is sort of included here.
Very interesting, yes, and very interesting to hear that. Yeah, the MLBPA is caught up in that because they are also making news these days. But before we switch over to that union issue, yeah, very strange dealings and probably a. I have to imagine if you're a player in the union now, probably pretty frustrating to be like, these are the people who are negotiating. Like, this is the organization that's supposed to be helping me not get screwed over by my contract.
Well, it's kind of crazy, right? Because the in the coalition thing, JC Trotter basically turned in every one of all the players and didn't protect them at all for the owners and saying, well, this is how we get the players right. He's been sort of the mastermind between everything that's been sort of bad in the NFL between the players and the organization as of late. I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of stuff.
I mean, yeah, when your job is to maximize the income or whatever, you don't worry about the football decisions.
Yeah, and it's been kind of a gross, nasty thing. I'm just have to stay tuned. I know Pablo Torre and Mike Florio have another piece coming here with all their insights and whatnot. But it's not.
Yeah, that's, I think, the craziest part is that this is just sort of still unfolding, and we've yet to really kind of grasp the full mess of it so far.
Yeah, and right now it doesn't seem like there's any like legal action that you can sort of take here. The best way they explained it is like they caught somebody with their hand in the cookie jar, but they haven't taken the cookie sort of quite yet. Like
We've caught someone with their hand where it's not supposed to be, but we can't prove that in their hand was a cookie.
Correct. That is exactly what's happening here. We can't prove that their hand was a cookie or that they didn't drop the cookie or anything like that. So to be continued, and as this sort of continues,
cookie was touched outside of proper cookie touching hours, and that's all we can say.
That is all anyone can say right now. Like I said, the FBI is now involved, and feels like this thing is going to break open a little bit more as the weeks continue to go on here. But I think that's a perfect segue into what's happening over there on the other round ball piece of our coalition.
Yeah, the baseball side of things. Looks like Rob Manfred is doing his yearly tour of meeting around with the various teams and whatnot, the players specifically, individually, and trying to give them the business sell on, why a salary cap would be good for baseball and the growing the game and things like that. And the players are not hearing any of it, putting up a surprisingly united front on this topic. But yeah, both Bryce Harper, I think Pete Alonso out of New York, and there was another big name, one of the Braves, have all gone out to the news and been like, yeah, I'd love to have Manfred come and try and tell me about a salary cap, because it's never going to happen.
Yeah, from what I heard, Bryce Harper gave him a very warm welcome into the Philadelphia locker room, which is kind of crazy because he's kind of like your boss-ish?
A little bit. No, because the relationship of the players to the commissioner is, the commissioner is hired by the owners essentially to like kind of keep the business of the league running. So yeah, I don't know, because it's not like he's the guy signing your checks or anything.
He's not, but he is also the guy that can tell you, hey, you can play or not. I can suspend you or whatever.
Yeah,
within reason.
Has some executive powers to wield over any individual player, theoretically. Yeah, for sure. It's all very much brewing up to what appears to be an almost certain lockout situation when the 2026 season comes to an end, and we are at the end of the current collective bargaining agreement, because all camps involved seem to be pretty dead set on their position of the salary cap. The Players Association saying absolutely not, and the owner's side saying, but we absolutely must have it. It is otherwise our sport will not survive.
It's crazy. It's almost like there's a podcast out there that kind of went about how can this possibly happen, and I think they came to the conclusion that it's going to be basically an impasse because there are so many good things about not having a salary cap for the players and so many terrible things for the owner and vice versa. And I don't know how you find the middle ground for for both.
Indeed. And the extra layer of complexity to this is that the previous system that you and I have never been witness to, because free agency, thankfully, has been a hallmark of MLB baseball since the 70s. But before that time, was a legal minefield, mud slop disaster of precedent rulings, meaning being interpreted in such a way that for about 100 years, United States judges all the way up to the Supreme Court said, yes, it does sort of break interstate commerce rules and antitrust rules that we've put in place, but for whatever reason that they decided back in the 1890s, we give baseball a pass on all these rules. It is a very interesting history that I got to dig into a little bit this week about how and why we came to a free agency model, because in the early, like, very 1870s, the country is just getting over the Civil War era. Baseball players were basically every single year being like, all right, my contract's up, who's going to pay me the most? And a man named William Hulbert out in Chicago said, well, I'm using some of the money that I've accumulated marrying into a wealthy family to support a baseball team, but I'm not going to have this team and try and assemble all the best players just to have them bounce away the next summer when the year's over. And the rules as they were that you could only do contracts year by year. And so he attempted to sign his star shortstop ahead of the next season. He was like, you're going to play for me next year too. Here's the contract. He got sued by the league that they were a part of. So he was like, okay, never mind. I'm going to start my own league. And that is the creation of the National League as we know it today, founded on the fact that a bunch of team owners got together and said, isn't it really annoying how we can't get any of these players to keep playing for us for more than 1 year? What if we could just say, reserve them and make sure that we have the right to, if you offer them a contract 1 year, you have the first right of offering them a contract for the next year. And somehow over the next 15 years, that system evolved into, if you offer a person a contract, they are your player unless you decide to trade or release them, period, for the entirety of their career.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
The tale of two extremes.
So the National League was founded on this kind of core system of being able to lock in a player for their entire career, which went through several legal battles throughout its history in several different cases. And at each turn, unfortunately, was interpreted by very baseball-friendly judges who wanted to make nice with the league, always interpret it in such a way that the government was outside their jurisdiction to put an end to this practice of the owners colluding with each other to not pay their star employees. Until, in the 1970s, we had the landmark case of Curt Flood, Flood versus Kuhn, where he was playing for Cincinnati, and Curtis Flood was traded without his knowledge or consent, obviously, as his contract dictated, to the Philadelphia Phillies. And so he basically, instead of playing for the Phillies, took that entire year, basically sacrificed his MLB career at that point. He was getting on in years. It was later into his career, but basically, the reason he is remembered by the union so much these days is he sacrificed that year of playing at what ended up being basically the rest of his career to take up a lawsuit against the league and the league ownership specifically to try and get an end to the reserve system. The lawsuit failed. It went all the way to the Supreme Court after like 3 or 4 years. And he was ruled against. The Supreme Court still upheld that the baseball owners were allowed to do this, but it was sort of the last crack in the dam, and got national sentiment behind the players, such that 2 years later, when it came time to renegotiate the bargaining agreement, the players had a basically lockout for 76 and made the owners compromise on a free agency model that has gone through a few revisions through the years. Originally, you had to play 10 years before you could be a free agent back in the 70s, but it opened the door to what we now have as sort of the standard model of players being able to become free agents and entertain offers from any team they like after 6 years of service. So, yeah, it's in a system that took about 100 years to get the legal right to get contracts and negotiations going with the owners. I don't see any way in the world the union budges on sort of any sort of backtracking through that system.
No, I'm sure. It's all fine. I'm sure the billionaires will get what they want. I'm sure that's how this whole thing is going to work out and play.
I think the most interesting thing for me is going to be seeing how long the lockout actually is. We've had a couple in our lifetimes already. Actually, I think the last one might have predated you. I think it was the 94-95 one. And that was basically 3/4 of the season that they lost that year before they came to an agreement. And then, because in an ideal world, the player or the owners always want to get some of the season played. But I think there's a very real possibility that we lose a year of baseball come 2026.
Do you think that it would be long enough that we go to a replacement style thing that some other leagues have done and tried?
I'd be very interested to see. Some enterprising minds in the baseball world might be prepping minor or ulterior leagues. Although I'm curious, I don't know what the language of the contracts is. If you're still technically under contract during the lockout, if you're like allowed to play for other baseball organizations or something, that might be a no-no. But we'll find out before too long, I think, because that is definitely
it's a couple years down the road, but
yeah. We're already on the back half of the 25 season here. It'll be looming large over all of next season, and then when we
go to 27, 28, right?
Yep. It's we will probably not have ball that year, at least not to start, unless some major changes and compromises come along. But like we've discussed in previous episodes, there is just a sort of lack of, or how would you say, the ideal outcome for the two sides seem to be too far apart.
The owners wanting a salary cap, which I think it has to happen. It's the only part that doesn't do it, which may have been, that's on them for not implementing it sooner.
Yep.
In fact, but now the contracts have blown up so much that you're almost, I can't even imagine what the salary cap looks like.
Yeah.
And how do you balance the extremes that we're going? Because
the fact that Juan Soto's contract is higher than a couple of teams' payrolls.
Yeah, as we've seen, you can't. The MLB has to do something for owners to continue to make money and be prosperous, and I think the salary cap is the only way they do that. But I know a lot of players are going to hate it because you can't do the Juan Sotos or any of the big $500,
it'll
$600
reset
million
the entire
contracts.
market for contracts after that point, for sure. Yeah, it's a thing where. And it's an argument that was made in the legal case back in the 70s, where the ownership defense in court was basically, our small market teams will get outbid and eaten alive by the big market teams, and it'll be bad for baseball. And unfortunately, that has kind of exactly come to pass, where LA, New York, other New York are three of the top spenders in the league. And the small market teams. Rockies are, as we've covered, kind of middle of the pack right now, but your Pirates are still getting outspent by a ton. The Twins are still getting outspent by a ton. The Royals have a hard time keeping pace in the American League. How will you make it fair for a $330 million roster and a $100 million roster to find some parity.
Yeah, I don't know how.
I also don't know. Thankfully, though, that's not our decision to make. And we do have a little actual baseball action to cover now that we're done with the business talk, including a couple of series from our Colorado Rockies. But we also had come to pass this last week. I should have, I misspoke there. We're not done with business talk because there was trade deadline this week, Friday the 31st, Thursday the 31st. Yeah, because Friday was the first. Thursday night was the trade deadline for this season, and I think surprising to me at least, the Rockies made the expected moves of moving Ryan McMahon and Jake Bird, and they also dealt Tyler Kinley, basically their most valuable aging assets that were probably not going to contribute to their next competitive window. Defying all expectations and doing something a competent GM might do.
Proud of them.
Yeah, now the caveat on that, we're not enjoying the benefits of any salary cap being opened up because we didn't acquire any new players. All of those 3 deals resulted in prospects in return. Almost all of them are pitching prospects. None of them are higher than AA.
We are loading up on the pitching again, which
you do have to do.
You do have to do, but also we need players out there to play in the outfield. We can't have angels in the outfield.
This is true. The other big notes from around the league out of the trade deadline, the Minnesota Twins traded out 40% of their roster. It was an absolute fire sale in Minnesota, much to the chagrin of whoever survived the blaze. Because, man, talk about ruining team morale if you come into work and find out almost half of all your coworkers are gone.
Keycard just, nope, not getting in today.
Yeah. It is apparently pretty anticipated that Minnesota is getting ready to have their ownership sell the team. So people were a little surprised that they kind of hit a hard reset on the existing roster now when that'll probably happen again after an ownership change anyway. Other news from our division, the Diamondbacks and Giants were also sellers here at the deadline. The Diamondbacks had sort of the most coveted batter around, a Eugenio Suarez. He ended up getting shipped back out to Seattle where he had begun his career. But is now much more polished slugger to plug into their lineup along with Big Dumper, who, and the Mariner, I mean, Big Dumper, I think, is already in the mid-40s in home runs. I think he's pacing the American League with like 45 now.
He's having himself a good time.
Absolutely. Shattering the records for catchers and switch hitters out in the American League there, especially for the Seattle squad. So yeah, the Diamondbacks did a little selling. The Giants did a little selling. The Padres, surprisingly, made a lot of moves to bring talent in. They are kind of realizing, I mean, we've been seeing it a lot through the recent years of like, oh, the Padres are loading up on a lot of talent. The window on keeping all that talent together does not stay open super long, so they are kind of making a pretty heavy investment in the second half of the season here to do some catching up. The Dodgers were fairly inactive because they are, if they get healthy, have plenty of good players to bolster their roster just coming off their injured list. So they were not quite as active as the rest of the league. And those are kind of the key highlights from the trade deadline. A funny note, because we followed Ryan McMahon and his immediate contributions to the Yankees squad. On Friday night, the Yankees rolled out all the new pieces of the bullpen that they acquired, including the Rockies' very own Jake Bird. And the 3 relievers that they went out and acquired blew the game for them. A 9-0 lead turned into a 12-11 loss.
Maybe that explains to some of the things that have been happening around here.
Something. Our very own Jake Bird giving up a 3-run home run, I believe, to get the rally started against the Yankees. So you win some, you lose some if you're the Yankees and pulling off those trades. But for the actual purple pinstripe team, It was a mixed bag of a week. We lost the series against the Cleveland Guardians out in Cleveland. We only got 1 out of 3 in that matchup there. But we did take 2 of 3 from Pittsburgh, and I believe our third game is currently underway. We are currently losing that one in the top of the 8th, 8-5. But like I said, we've already won the first 2 in that series, so we'll take a 50-50 week. That's actually pretty huge for the Rockies.
Yeah, they've done it in pretty impeccable fashion too, might I add.
Yes, looked pretty good. Still keeping pretty good momentum. The Cleveland series, a little less so. Before the trade happened, Jake Bird basically gave up all of Bradley Blaylock's lead in the first game of that series. And then the second start, we're still trying to find out who's worth our rotation. Tanner Gordon got hit around for 7 runs in 3 innings pitched and had 3 errors behind him as well. So that one was a pretty rough loss. So we won that first game, lost the second, and then the third game on getaway day, the Rockies were shut out by 6 different pitchers from the Cleveland Guardians who had a short bullpen and were still able to string together 6 pitchers to give up no runs. Bit of a bummer. Then we brought the show back to Coors Field and welcomed in the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team who have a lot more talented roster but are not much better than us standings-wise. The very first game of that series was an absolute Coors Field classic. You probably heard it if you keep your eye on any of the sports news. A 17-16 walk-off from a Brenton Doyle 2-run home run to cap off a comeback from a 9-0 deficit in the first inning.
It was on all the sporting outlets. We finally did something good.
It was noteworthy in several cases. I'll give you one guess on who the starter was in that game.
You're not going to... I'm going to assume it's Senzatella because 9 runs is egregious.
It absolutely was. Senza gave up 9 runs. No, he gave up 7 runs and recorded 2 outs before they pulled him. They batted around and then got like 2 more into the second round. And they were like, okay, we got to pull the plug on this one. It was a pretty ugly night for all pitchers at Coors Field. Great night for the offense, though. Both Ezekiel Tovar and Warming Barnabel went 4 for 6 to keep the offense chugging. And little by little, the Rocks knocked that lead down to, it was 16-12 going into the 9th inning, so still a 4-run deficit. And the boys rallied through and put Brenton Doyle in position to get that go-ahead home run for the walk-off, and we got a nice little storybook ending there on that Friday night, which was good because the next day we had to face probably going to be the National League Cy Young winner, Paul Skeens.
I know that guy.
Yeah, we all kind of have heard of that guy because he's one of the best pitchers in the league right now. Started the All-Star game for the National League. This is his first trip to Coors Field in his young career, so everyone was very curious to see how he would handle the altitude and all that. And for the first 5 innings, it did not seem to bother him. He was basically as good as advertised. I think he put up 8 strikeouts in that first 5 innings. And then something happened in the 6th inning. Maybe the altitude got to him finally. Man could not buy an out. Gave up 4 runs, including a Jordan Beck 3-run homer before he was pulled. And then his replacement from the bullpen could not get an out either. The Rockies ended up taking a 5-4 lead out of that inning and were able to hold on to that lead and padded a little bit for an 8-5 victory on that one. So, very exciting stuff there. Again, when the Rockies are looking good, they're looking pretty good altogether. I will say my nod out of the Rockies for Player of the Week this week has to go to Warming Barnabel. In his very first week as a call-up here, potentially our new first baseman of the future, he has already put up the 3rd most WAR on the team.
He's just raising that thing like no other.
He is hitting .458 currently with a .480 slugging percentage, 3 home runs, 7 RBI, and like I said, has generated 0.8 WAR in 7 games started. The only 2 players with more than that on our team currently are Hunter Goodman, who was our all-star, and Ezekiel Tovar, who is our highest paid player that actually plays.
Our broken guy.
Yeah. So a very, very strong start. And I will say it hasn't been so much catching over at first base, but has already made several highlight reel plays in just fielding batted balls over at first base there. A pretty immediate upgrade in defense. I don't know how much more Michael Tolia we're going to see.
I was about to say,
year.
poor Tulia. After the game we went to and saw, it's just never been the same again.
Not quite. And this is one of those ones where, there's a lot of discussion in baseball about do you pay attention to stats, or are you more of like an eye test person? Warming Barnabel in his minor league career has not had very good stats. This guy looks like one of the best ball players on the field now that he's in the bigs. So it's one of those things where you're like, I don't know. Eye test says that guy looks like he's doing pretty good out there.
He can't hit the slow balls. It's tough.
Something, but yeah. So a very strong start for our potential new first baseman of the future. The name's growing on me.
It's a name. It's a unique name. It's one that you will not forget for sure.
Hopefully not. Again, all of this is his first 7 games in the big leagues. He will almost certainly cool off and revert back to the norm, and it'll be a little bit before we know what his actual baseline is going to be, but coming out of the gate strong and contributing to a nice, at the end of the week here, the Rockies find themselves with a record of 30 wins and 80 losses. Nice and clean, easy to track, 50 games under 500.
We're on the way.
It's so bad. So bad. But yeah, that is... The Pirates just scored another run here in the top of the 8th, so that is now a 9-5 deficit for the Rocks to try and pull off here. Coming up next week, we've got the Toronto Blue Jays coming into Coors Field, and then our Rockies head out to Arizona to play a 3-game set with the Diamondbacks.
Woo!
I think that covers all of the baseball news. Did you have any secondary sports news this week?
Did not.
Fantastic. Well, that means we'll bounce right into our doubleheader homestand weekend for the Denver Outlaws.
It's homecoming week, baby.
It was homecoming week, and I did not realize this. The end of the regular season for the Outlaws.
Good for they.
Yeah, we talked about if they were going to do any buys, and it looks like with completing their 10th regular season game after the second game of their homestand here, they will get the last regular season week next week off.
We like that.
We absolutely do. To cover the action here at Peter Barton Stadium, Friday night, Denver had to play in the setting sun the Carolina Chaos, who were a team that we lost to in the early part of the season already, but coming in as the hottest offensive team in the league. This one ended up a 12-11 loss. The good guys were not able to pull this one out. Especially tough because we took a 9-5 lead into halftime and then only scored 2 goals in the entire second half. Very tricksy. Chaos, I think, are second in the East currently, but definitely a matchup to keep note of looking ahead to playoff time, because it seems maybe like a little bit of a Timberwolves versus Nuggets thing, where this roster maybe isn't going to set the world on fire, but they do seem to be designed specifically to counter what we do.
Yeah, some teams do that to you. I know that firsthand. It hurts. It hurts bad.
Yeah, it's still an entertaining game. Great show for the crowd. And I will say, of all of the PLL action that I've watched, the Denver crowd, not to toot our own horn, was by far the most active and involved and enthusiastic crowd of any of the broadcasts I have caught so far. Loud all the way through, especially for the Outlaws when they had the ball, but just a very vibrant lacrosse atmosphere, I would say. The Outlaws took that one right down to the last possession. It was 12-10 with 14 seconds left to go. They were able to score 1 goal in that 14-second window. We're not able to run a second exciting 10-second or less play to get another goal in and force OT. So they did break their 6-game winning streak. Did fall to 6-3 after that Friday night. But then had to go right back to it on Saturday against the East's number one team, the New York Atlas, their one and only showdown for this regular season. And this was probably game of the year, game of the regular season. Lived up to the hype. Definitely, like, you know how near the end of the season in your regular, you're like, oh, this one has a playoff feel. That's what this was. This was, the Friday night, it seemed like maybe the Outlaws had mentally checked out a little in the second half, maybe took Carolina for granted. In this one, everyone was kind of locked and loaded, ready to go against your toughest opponent, and it was a good one. This was sort of the reverse situation. The Outlaws took a 4-goal deficit into halftime. They were down 9-5, or 9-4, I think, and then had an absolutely dominant second half. They generated 62 shots on goal.
That feels like a lot.
It's a huge number. And the Atlas goalie was he had like a 50% save percentage, which is very good in lacrosse. But it was just, an onslaught from the Outlaws in the second half. Were able to, and this one again came down to the very last minute and like possessions and timeouts and all that fun, exciting stuff that you like to see. Jake Pacino got a huge 2-point goal, the only one of the game, to get the game tied up. And then it was a back and forth for the last minute 37 with clutch scoring. We took a 12-12 game into overtime at the end of regulation. And that was a surprisingly long overtime, considering it is a sudden death, next goal scores. But both goalies playing out of their minds as well. They went about 4 possessions each team before we finally got Jared Bernhardt for the Outlaws to put home the game winner. With that 13-12 overtime win, our Outlaws secure the number 1 seed in the West and a first-round playoff bye. So
we will take that.
We absolutely will, especially Pat Cavanaugh came into this weekend questionable due to injury, so we're giving everyone a couple of weeks here at the high point of heat in the summer to rest up, relax, do some scouting, and get ready for the semifinals of the playoffs in 2 weeks. But that doesn't... I'll still give the PLL update next week, but we're not going to have any Outlaws to talk about for a little while now.
Good news and bad. Unfortunately, we won't get an update, but good that they get one. They won this week, won at least the one they needed to get that bye. And we are getting ready for playoffs now, baby.
Indeed. So, as we have alluded to, we've been trying to narrow down who our the player of the week is. I've already thrown out Warming Barnabel from the Rockies. We'll go ahead and nominate out of the PLL action this week Logan Wisnauskas, one of those 4 Tuaraton winners on the roster. He put up 7 points this weekend, which not the most that we've seen out of the Outlaws bunch today, but a little bit of a down weekend for the big name guys. A lot of 1 points, 2 points. Wisnauskas brought it both nights and had 7 points altogether.
We'll take that. We like it.
Absolutely. Who would you like to nominate as your WNBA player of the week?
My WNBA player of the week is Kayla McBride of the Minnesota Lynx. This week, actually, today is Sunday, so Friday, game against Vegas, 111-58 for the Lynx. Kayla McBride contributed 8 for 8 from the 3-point arc before heading into halftime. She finished the game with 24 points. She did miss a couple threes in the rest of her play. She was 1 short of tying the all-time record of 9 and 2 short of breaking the record.
Wow, that is a heck of a week. All right, so the way I kind of thought we might do player of the week here is we've put in our submissions out of the teams that have played. I don't think we'll consider preseason football in need of a player of the week. So I think can maybe have a little discussion here on, I think we have our individual sport ones. Who do you think, and maybe we each make a case on who we think should be the one winning player of the week? Out of our 3, kind of candidates here, who comes away with it? And I don't know if we necessarily need to come away with a consensus. Maybe we disagree. Maybe we sway each other into an agreement here.
Sure.
But I think for me, I'm going to put my final vote behind Warming Barnabel. Just super impressive first week at first base for a bad Rockies team.
Yeah, I want to put my vote behind Warming Barnabel, but also it's his first week up here. He had a very good time. He had a positive WAR, which is not unheard of. I'm going to put my vote actually behind Kayla McBride. She was just a couple ways from breaking all-time record 8 for 8 from the field going into halftime, had 24, had the greatest win, the largest margin win in WNBA history. I think that's something that's going to be remembered.
Well, when you put it that way, I do think, if we look at it, it's the league-wide record, close to being accomplishing that. I do think that warrants a little bit more consideration than a first week in the Bigs performance. So I will go ahead and acquiesce. We can go ahead and name Kayla McBride as our Player of the Week for our very first Player of the Week.
I'm happy for that. Thank you.
Fantastic. And now we can go ahead and, as the name suggests, get to our closing quiz.
Closing quiz. I know this one has been a long one. We've talked a lot of business. We've talked a bunch of mess that's happening in the NFL. We've talked the craziness that's in the MLB. And I said, tie the quiz in together. We're talking about lockouts this week, baby.
Fantastic.
So the first question of our quiz here is, which major sport was the last to have a lockout? And I'll give you a bonus point for win. So possible 10 points on the board, 5 that will count.
Okay. Most recent league to have a lockout, and if I can name when. Now my memory is going to get a little fuzzy on me. I believe hockey was our last lockout.
It is not hockey.
It's not hockey. Incredible. Who was it then?
It was the MLB. The MLB had a lockout in 2021, if you remember, right after our COVID season.
I obviously do not.
Yeah, there was the shortened season as well. Everyone was not super pleased with it, and it was a kind of everyone forgot baseball existed for a little bit.
I do remember a little bit. Yeah, that the baseball was probably the worst affected by COVID overall.
Yes,
in the long term,
very much so. It was weird to see. I mean, all the sports were weird at the time, but baseball just seemed like worse because they have their contracts are ridiculous, and so you got to pay them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the last one that we had here. Question number 2. We are 0 for 1 on the board. Which sport had the longest lockout?
Longest lockout is period.
Period.
That's a great question. We've mentioned that the baseball ones can last for several months. Hockey has lost an entire season, though, I'm pretty certain. Football, I don't remember off the top of my head of football, but their seasons are shorter anyway. I'm just going to go ahead and wild card here since I'm not super certain on any of them. I'm going to say basketball.
That's crazy. Actually, is the NHL. The NHL did have the longest lockout, 310 days, which was in your lifetime, 04-05, which I assume you remember.
The full year. Yeah.
Yep, that was the longest one in any sports lockout history. To follow up there, which sport had the shortest lockout in history?
Is that a football?
It is not a football.
No. Well, I obviously have got it wrong. Basketball?
Nope. The MLB is the shortest, in fact.
Geez.
They had a 2-day lockout in 1985.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I would have caught wind of that one. It's before my time.
Of course. Fair enough. And the last question here is, which sport had the first lockout?
Oh, okay. I just did a lot of reading on labor unions and such, but the MLBs didn't do a lockout for a long time. Football?
It's not football. It's the MLB, and it's in fact the 1972 lockout, which you probably actually read about and mentioned.
Yeah, that was part of the Curt Flood era. Yeah.
That was in fact the first lockout in any sports history.
Oh, fantastic.
Last bonus question here. Which sport is the only sport not to have a lockout?
Is it football?
It's a trick question. They've all had lockouts. In fact, the NBA, MLB, NHL, and NFL have all had lockouts of various degrees, some lasting 2 days and some lasting a whole 310 days.
310. Oh, boy. Well, that's probably my worst performance at a closing quiz yet.
Hey, I try to give you a chance here.
It was very fair. I make no qualms with the quiz master.
Yes, and I guess what we've learned here is if you ever have a question about a lockout, the answer is probably MLB. They've sort of set the standards for what a lockout is until it becomes to how long we are willing to sit in this lockout. Then the NHL holds to that.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, solidarity for striking workers and fair payment for fair labor.
Yes. Before we go here, two things I did forget in my sort of announcements. One for the WNBA. John Carrington, who was kind of the partner to Paige Becker's down in Dallas. Gets a little bit of an upgrade. She's heading out to Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, I saw that earlier
today. And the other thing I did not mention was the NFL had a huge deal to their name now, $1 billion from ESPN, in which they will get the NFL Network's sort of news as well as the NFL Red Zone, which is coveted by many.
Sure. Yeah, if we're throwing out notes that we forgot to cover here, we did mention that there were a couple of Hall of Fame events in this past week of coverage. Didn't mention who made it in. Baseball, that Hall of Fame class included CC Sabathia and Ichiro. And then this weekend for that Hall of Fame football game, they were honoring the inclusion of class of 2025, Jared Allen, Sterling Sharp, Eric Allen, and Antonio Gates, which makes me feel old as dust.
Yeah, it's weird seeing players that you've seen play
watch their entire career.
Yep, it's that time now.
Became a meme of basketball player turned tight end.
He's the only player in the NFL Hall of Fame that never played college football.
It's an incredible feat and
amazing,
one of a kind performance there for sure.
Indeed,
got to show Antonio a little love now that he's no longer terrorizing my poor Broncos.
Up the middle, him, LaDainian Tomlinson, Phillip Rivers. What a time! What a terrible time for the Broncos who were in recovery mode.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is going to do it for us. The Rockies are in the 9th inning now. It's not looking good. I don't think I see it come back on the horizon.
Anything is possible. They've shown it. Anything is possible.
They have closed up 4-run leads before.
A sweep, though, is a lot to ask for, especially after we've already committed miracles in both of these wins, it feels like so far.
Very much. This would be a pretty big steal for us, but we'll have the final results on that next week.
Indeed. Thank you guys for coming along on this ride. I know this one was a little bit a longer one. Did want to get out all the good detailed news out there about all of our business problems that we've had throughout sports. Remember, while we're still talking about lockouts, the WNBA one apparently may be here soon on the rise if we do not agree on the CBA here for next year. So that'll be our next one. Keep that for the next quiz that is coming along for lockouts. But thank you guys for joining us on this podcast. This has been This Week in Sports. Of course, I have been your friendly neighborhood host, the host with the most, the director here of 321s. And of course, I have my associate regional manager, Nick, along with me.
I want those TPS reports on my desk first thing Monday morning.
I gave you the TPS report.
No, the listener.
Oh, okay.
You have to submit your TPS reports to 321pods.com or as a review on Spotify.
Absolutely. Remember, we do like a 5-star review. If you have not done so, do give us a follow on that Spotify. Go subscribe to that YouTube. YouTube is coming along slowly. Has a little bit nicer of a breakup than the Spotify, which some people are much better at the putting it together than some. Not going to name who's who.
Yep.
But we all know who's who. We'll see you guys next week.
Adios.